this right here is the lens that they shot Adolescence with entirely. This one lens, the SP3 32mm. Oh, there it goes. So what makes this so special? Well, let's test it out. Smash, 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 smash. So why did Matthew Lewis choose this one single lens out of all of the lenses in the world? That question right there might be a bit of a false pretense because he was shooting on a Ronin, so already there that limits the types of lenses you can use. And this Cooke lens weighs just over a pound, 520 grams, so it's very light. And being that it's Cooke, it comes from a long history of cinema lenses. So these lenses are not autofocus. They're designed to work with professional camera rigs. So we're talking about really smooth gearing, good pitch on the teeth of the actual lens so that they can use whatever follow focuses they need to. And it also has the threading at the front here so they could use a variable ND because the Ronin has step NDs, so those big blinds that come down. You can't do that in the middle of a shot on a series like Adolescence. And let's talk about that premise of Adolescence for a sec, because that's why they chose this lens. This show was entirely one takes. I don't need to belabor that. You've heard it extensively. There was no cuts in the show. So why choose this lens? Well, let's forget about Cooke for a sec and just think about 32 mil. On a full frame sensor like the 4D, they say the closest thing to our own field of view, our human perspective, is about a 43 mil. Now, you'll hear a lot of people traditionally saying it's a 50 mil. I think that's just because 50 mils are more ubiquitous, they're more available, so people tend to associate that with their field of view. But from a very technical standpoint, 43 is what they say is closer to our field of view. So why not use a 43? Well, the longer the focal length you have, the less forgiving that lens is if actors miss their mark, or if you miss a pan, or your camera operator isn't following the action tight enough. So I think they wanted to widen out to a 32 mil so that there was a little more grace for everyone involved when shooting an entire episode in one take. So why not shoot on a 24 or 20 mil lens then, if we're talking about leaving some breathing room for these one takes? Well, you're going to start to see crew members then. You're going to start to see lighting rigs. Also, too, in the corners on wider lenses, you start to get a little bit of distortion or bowing, or it's not rectilinear. So that 32 mil falls in a very interesting category. It's slightly wide, which gives you a little more grace and some play, and you get to see all these extras. There was times in Adolescence that they'd have these big, beautiful wide shots of the entire town or in the entire school. So you get to be more immersed with that. But then it does start leaning towards that human field of view perspective. So as an audience member, we do get to feel like we're there in the action. That was the whole point of this show, was to feel like you were steeped in reality. And they absolutely achieved it. It was an incredible show, especially that last episode. What a devastatingly intimate and challenging episode to watch. And I think it's a really important show and opens up a lot of important questions about what this generation is facing with the internet and isolation. But that's a whole other video. In full disclosure, Cooke did send me a set to use. They don't know I'm making this video. They didn't ask me to make any content. They don't get to see this video until it's released. So this is not sponsored, but I do appreciate them letting me try these out. So let's go test these lenses. Who is Cooke? They're one of the classic lens manufacturers. They've started all the way back into the 1800s. They were known for making the speed panchro lenses, which were kind of the first fast cinema lenses around 1916. I believe if I have my data right, Cooke makes high-end, beautiful cinema lenses. I've had the chance to use some of their anamorphic lenses on a Mercedes-Benz piece I shot. And they have this thing that everyone calls the Cooke Look. It's a soft, warm look with a little bit of fall off on the edges and some unique bokeh. I hate using this term, but it's that true cinematic traditional look. It's not super clean, but it's also not crazy like a Hawk or a Helios lens. It's as if your Helios does a lot of drugs and it's kind of crazy. It's just a wild lens with all its flares. The Cooke is the athlete version of that. It lives a clean life. It doesn't drink, goes to bed early. I've used them a little bit with my mirrorless cameras, and I threw them on my Ronin as well, and that's where they really shine. They're in that weight category that really works well for a Ronin. Now, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It feels a bit blasphemous when talking about cinema lenses, but because this is E-mount, if there was a world that you could get this natively built with autofocus to use kind of the Sony eye tracking, that would be amazing. These days when we're doing interviews especially, and you have like 4 cameras, it's so helpful having the autofocus because I can really trust that it's going to track the person's face when they're leaning in and out, and I can just be entirely focused on the interview. And if I could afford it, I would have 4 camera assistants all pulling their focus. But that's not always an option, because for that CBUM interview, it would have been really amazing to use only these SP3 lenses because I love the look so much. And it's just enough interest in the background while staying sharp. It's just kind of a perfect interview lens. And by the way, if you want to see the lighting diagram for that CBUM interview or get a list of questions for when shooting interviews, we have free resources. I put them down below. We love having these out there for people just to help improve your filmmaking. So it's a free link down below. You'll get a PDF sent to you with all the list of questions we do for interviews. And we have a second PDF that has full lighting diagrams for all of our interviews. Actually, I'll just put all of our free resources down below. They're free PDFs. They get sent directly to your inbox, so you can download them right there. Autofocus. Wow, never thought I would say that. This lens has that, some people don't call it a swirl, but I would say it feels like a swirl. Like the bokeh in the background on these images is very, what do you say besides saying organic or swirly or cat's eyes? It just has a texture to it. There's almost a shine and an edge. It's like a sharp fall off. Almost. You can always see it in the corners whenever there is that dappling of light. And I love it. It makes a very normal shot look more interesting, but it doesn't have to go into the crazy place of anamorphic. But similar to anamorphic, these lenses are mostly sharp in the center of the frame. They fall off slightly to the edges, and I love that. I want my lenses to be a little more interesting. There's times where you want to shoot with like a super clean master prime. I was in a tiny seminar recently with Roger Deakins, and he spoke about how he wants his lenses to be so completely clean because that's the way our eyes see. And I totally understand that. But for me, when I shoot my doc work and my cinema work, I kind of like there being a layer of texture, of visual interest in the corners and around the image. So these SP3s definitely provide that. Comparing to my Samara C lenses, those are just very clean. They have a tiny bit of a vintage look, the Samara C, but I would say the Cooke gives more of what people call the Cooke look, which just means it's a little more warmer, it's a little softer. The fall off is a bit more unique in the edges, which I don't know if you can say a bit more unique if that's bad grammar, but we are today. Now, they're not autofocus, so they're meant to be for a more professional scenario. That's really what they're going for with both that price tag. The irony is at $21,000 for these 6 lenses, that's like a steal for Cooke's lenses. Cooke's lenses can run you a small mortgage. If you want to get 3 anamorphic Cooke lenses, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your shopping cart gets really crazy and you need one of those black Amexes just to buy them or take out a mortgage. But they are beautiful lenses. Not everyone is going to be a fan of the Cooke Look, but personally, I'm a big fan. As mentioned, that fall off, there's like almost a sharpness in the soft bokeh, which I like. It might draw your eyes there a bit, but to me, just a simple shot like Landon here, when we get underneath and we're looking up towards him, that's beautiful. I can work with that, especially in doc, where I'm constantly looking at what is my background and where am I placing this lens. So if I was shooting this in a doc scenario, I would need a gear. I mean, yeah, you could pull off the barrel. It's actually very smooth, so I could be mistaken. And I mean, pulling manual focus isn't the end of the world. I did that for years, shot whole films without autofocus. That's just something that's come in the last few years and we've gotten very used to it. And the problem with autofocus, it's a bit like ChatGPT. Like it works great sometimes, but then other times it's useless. But then we become so reliant on it that when it's useless, we don't know what to do. So we just leave it useless. So we'll leave stuff out of focus. So I think it's always good to have the skill set for manual focus. So when you can afford the rental or you want to purchase this, fantastic. It's probably one of the best lenses you can get onto that 4D without going to something unruly and giant. If you want to have like a true light handheld system that you could use for something like Adolescence, if you're just going to go shoot a film like that, or if you're shooting doc work. The point of going for this versus a stills lens, even on your like FX3, because these are E-mount, is that it takes off that digital look. So there you go. Very highly untechnical first thoughts on these. We'll see if I keep them in my set. I don't know when Cooke is going to ask for them back. I've been in my office for a few months now, but I'm hoping I get to use them on a project. It's really cool seeing a camera company like Cooke, who's traditionally just gone for the top tier cinematography, begin to now create some lenses that are for that mid tier or low budget rental kind of scenarios. So the Cooke Look, and the SP3s. See you in the next one.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.